Welcome to the Ask Dr. Deanna show. I'm Dr. Deanna Holgren, your host. Join me weekly as I cover various health-related lifestyle medicine topics that you get to request. This show is for anyone who wants to proactively improve their health position. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hey, if you didn't get a chance to check out last week's or to listen to last week's episode, we talked a lot about inflammation. And inflammation is a topic that actually crosses over to our topic for today. And our topic for today is really brain fog. And I have so many patients who ask me what they can do about their brain fog, why they have brain fog, and, just basically overall, things that they can do, lifestyle, things that they can change in their lifestyle, et cetera, to make a difference here. And so I wanted to start off, first of all, just by talking a little bit about brain fog. What is it exactly? What are people talking about when they say this? And it's basically just this sensation or this feeling that your brain is just not working quite as well as it normally does. Sometimes you'll hear, people say that they've got mommy brain. Maybe they just had a baby, or they've got COVID brain. You've heard that one because they just got over COVID. And they can just tell that they are not thinking as clearly as they used to. And so sometimes when you look at what is that, why does that happen? And certainly COVID has been a big part of this. I have patients who frequently will say that, this started after COVID, and I'll share with you a little bit later what I recommend for them to do that definitely will make a difference for them. But when we look at what is causing this brain fog, why is it that our brain does this? And basically, it's typically because there's some sort of injury. And we're going to talk about different types of injuries that can happen. And typically, when you think about brain injury, you think, oh, well, I fell down and I hit my head. I got a concussion. That's one that we all know about, right? But there's more than just that type of brain injury. We also have brain injuries that can be caused, for example, from infections, whether that be a virus or even a bacterial infection. Those can have a significant negative impact on our brain, on the health of our brain. And then also, in addition to that, we know that poor diet, that highly processed diet, you guys know that I'm constantly talking about the importance of eating a whole food, nutrient-dense, clean diet. Get away from the foods that come from a bag, a box, or a drive-through window. And basically the diet that is what I call a dirty diet, and it's dirty because it has so many chemicals in it. Many of those chemicals are, neurotoxins, if you will. They're excitatory chemicals that have an impact on the brain and just cause the brain to not function as well as it normally would. So this is what's happening. When you look at how our brain functions and there's something called neuroplasticity. There's also cell-to-cell communication and there are, millions and millions of cells in the brain, and they actually communicate with each other, sending signals, sending messages. Well, when we're not eating the right foods, or when we've had a virus, we've had an illness, whatever, suddenly things get a little gunked up, a little foggy, okay? And you feel like you're walking around with your head kind of in the clouds, so to speak. And you just cannot maybe recall things as quickly as you once did. You cannot process things as quickly. And it certainly can have an impact on productivity. It can have an impact on, our ability to do our job, and can definitely be a huge negative impact. If you are the person who is, for example, reading something and you feel like, oh my gosh, I've just read that thing 10 times and I have no idea what I read. Okay, well, that would be a good example of this, okay, because you know how to read and you should be able to read something and know what it was that you read. Even if you don't understand fully what it's about, you should be able to tell us some of that. And so if you feel like, no, I can't, then again, this applies to you. All right, so what are some of the things that we can do to have a positive impact and to basically get rid of this brain fog? And, I'm looking at mainly the things that have to do with diet, the things that have to do with viruses, illnesses, and then also injuries. But also you could put into that category, we have an awful lot of patients who are struggling with Alzheimer's. who are struggling with dementia, who are struggling with issues like that. And I think that those are becoming more and more recognizable or more and more talked about in society and so forth. And so, a lot of these things actually, make a difference there as well. So the first thing is to support the brain. Okay. And to think about your brain as an organ that needs support. Most of us don't really think about our brain health. We think about our heart health. We think about, the health of other organs in our body, maybe liver health or kidney health or whatever, but we don't really think about brain health. And so to start, a good starting point is to basically, be able to think about it and to say, okay, you know what, this basically needs to be addressed as well. And generally speaking, the good news is anything that's anti-inflammatory, for the body, for the blood vessel, when you look at, hypertension and just blood vessels and blood vessel disease, anything that's anti-inflammatory there is also going to be anti-inflammatory for the brain. Okay. So if it's anti-inflammatory for the gut, it's going to be anti-inflammatory for the brain. It's going to make a difference there as well. So supporting the brain, some supplements that I like to use that I recommend. The first one is omega-3s, omega-3 essential fatty acid. Now, it's super important when you look at omega-3s, it's got to be clean. You don't want, something that's processed. For example, sometimes people will get, a fish oil that maybe it's got mercury in it. We want a super clean omega-3 that is certified organic, that is clean. And when you look at an omega-3, like a fish oil type of omega-3, it should not be rancid. You should not be burping or belching up a fish flavor. If you are, there's something wrong with the product. Okay. It's not a good product. It's rancid, it's expired, whatever. Some people will go the vegan option, which would be a plant-based vegan omega-3. Those are fantastic as well. And oftentimes those are made from flax seeds. Sometimes people just incorporate foods. But also, again, omega-3 is important. I usually recommend about 1,000 milligrams a day. And, when people have something that they're recovering from, it's not uncommon for me to recommend increasing it to 1,000 milligrams twice a day. So post-COVID, I've had a lot of my patients who have increased omega-3s to 1,000 milligrams twice daily. This whole category of supplements that are, looked at for cognitive health are actually something called nootropics, which is a fairly new, I would say probably in the last 5 years, classification of supplements or herbs, if you will, that basically have been shown to have a positive impact on cognitive abilities. And so omega-3 would fall into that category. Another huge one would be phosphatidylserine. And I'm a big fan of phosphatidylserine. If you looked up nootropics and you looked up the top 10 nootropics that are available in the market, they would list phosphatidylserine as number one. And the reason is that there have been some good studies with this, so much so that it is recommended in medicine. And I know there was a decent study that came out, I believe in 2020 regarding phosphatidylserine specifically. But basically, phosphatidylserine is something that helps with glutamate and glutathione balances. Okay. So it can make a difference there. And typically people are going to use, most products will have 100 milligrams daily of phosphatidylserine, but certainly some people will go up. I know that the safety profile on it, when you look at what amount is okay to take, some people will go as high as 200 milligrams, 3 times a day. So we see that, and that can really help with cell cycle signaling, which basically helps cells to know, how they're supposed to function, if you will. So that's one that is huge. Another one that I really like is NAC. NAC, oftentimes called NAC or N-acetylcysteine, okay, is absolutely an incredible supplement. And NAC basically helps to boost brain health. And again, this is something that will help regulate glutamate as well as glutathione. And sometimes when we look at Alzheimer's, patients, or we look at what's going on in their brain, sometimes the glutamate is not being processed properly. glutamate. We have a high concentration of that in the brain. So NAC can really help make a difference here. But also, in addition, NAC helps to boost glutathione, which is our most potent antioxidant. So then you're getting like a really nice detoxification going from that as well. So I'm a big fan of NAC. It's great for so many other things as well. And certainly a lot of people have also incorporated it even from the standpoint of looking at mood and, just having issues with, for example, it's sometimes used if somebody maybe has obsessive compulsive disorder. Certain mood disorders have been able to use NAC successfully. There are several other uses for NAC in addition, but today we are focusing on the brain and how to, utilize it there. So the dosage there is usually anywhere from 1,600 to 1,800 milligrams a day. And I typically take 600 milligrams of NAC daily. When I did have COVID, I actually increased that to 3 times a day. Some other supplements that are great for the brain, that the brain just really functions well or runs well on. B vitamins. B vitamins are really important for brain function. There's a neurologist that I've probably quoted before, Dr. David Perlmutter, and he's in Naples, Florida. He wrote the Better Brain book, which is a great book on just cognitive abilities and how to support your brain and how to, keep your brain healthy. And he talks a lot about B vitamins. L-theanine would also make it to that list. And you'll see that in a lot of supplements as well. Vitamin E, ginkgo biloba, ginseng. Ginseng is really great for focus and the ability to concentrate. Curcumin, which is also turmeric. Again, remember I said anything that has an anti-inflammatory component within the body is typically going to be great for the brain. Also, we have to add to that list probiotics. Okay, probiotics. There's this whole gut-brain connection, and there's this whole group that studies the microbiome and the effect that it has, on the brain, and the correcting or helping your gut, healing your gut is always a great place to start when it comes to brain health. And, I love the fact that they're making all of these connections and seeing that there is such an overlay between the microbiome and how the brain functions. Some people have even gone as far as to call, Alzheimer's, in a sense, sort of like a type of diabetes in the brain. Too much, basically an insulin resistance kind of phenomenon going on, a lot of sugar, that basically has a negative impact on the overall health of the brain. And then caffeine, caffeine has to make it to the list. And caffeine sometimes gets a bad rap. But if you are having trouble focusing, caffeine actually a little bit of caffeine can make a difference there as well. And then I think it's also important to talk about some mental exercises. It is good for your brain to work, okay? Just like exercising your body, it is also good for your brain to work. It is good to force yourself to learn something new. So if there's a hobby, something that you've always wanted to pick up, something that you've wanted to learn, but maybe you just haven't had the time or, the money in the past or whatever, maybe this is a good time to think about learning something new. There are also, of course, a lot of great puzzles, card games, just things that make you think, things that force you to think. Math is a great, brain teaser, if you will, that you basically have to actually apply something and, and think to be able to do math. So lots of things that we can do. But again, it starts, if you said, what's the number one thing? Pick one. What's the number one thing? The number one thing to me is actually the diet. And it is just cleaning up, moving toward a whole food, nutrient dense, clean diet that is supporting your entire body. And if you said, what's the number two thing? For me personally, it would be sort of a toss up between omega-3s and phosphatidylserine. I like both. Okay. But I probably would go with omega-3s for the win, just because they are anti-inflammatory across the entire system for the whole body. And you've got some great benefits. All of our athletes in our practice, we recommend that they take omega-3s daily because it helps to prevent concussions if they should happen to get hit in the head. We know the power of omega-3 in the brain, and it definitely helps to, there's some good studies that have shown that it will help reduce certain proteins that build up that cause the tangles in the brain that lead to dementia. And so we know that can definitely have a positive impact. So basically, it matters. You can see a difference with your brain. Start with a clean diet, add a couple of the supplements in, and, just keep a journal. Okay. Take a look at what is happening. Do I see an improvement or not? But most of the time people will say, oh yeah, my memory has improved. And that's probably the number one thing that we see is just an improvement with memory, which means that the fog is clearing. Nobody likes foggy days, right? So I hope this has been helpful, and thanks so much for plugging in and listening today. I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed that episode. For more information, visit me at deannaholdren.com. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Deanna Holdren. I really want to hear from you, so message me. I love taking your messages and creating topics from them. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share my show with those who have an interest in health and wellness. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week.